What's up guys, Brady Fugel here, coming at you with a review for the new Dreamwake album, The Lost Years, released this past Friday, August 8th. This is a new band that I discovered and was very intrigued by just by the overall sound that I saw that they were going for, combining metalcore and synthwave. Because I think synth music in rock and metal, when it's done right and when it's done in a thoughtful manner, can add so much to the moods and the emotions in the songs they're in. And with so many bands taking the metalcore genre and pushing it into so many new and creative territories, this band to me was just another instance of that. Another band that kind of is using the metalcore foundation and adding to it. So I was very intrigued by this album. And something that stuck out to me on my first listen was that production-wise, I think this album is bordering on flawless. This is a beautiful sounding metalcore album. I mean, every instrument pops, the vocals absolutely soar, the clean vocals and then the harsh vocals absolutely crush, the drums sound great, the synths make for a beautiful and gorgeous atmosphere that just coats the lining of all of these tracks. I have to give an A+ to the producer for this album. I don't have any criticisms for how this album sounds. So that was great to hear right off the bat. Now shifting over to style. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, this album didn't do it for me. As much as I tried, and as much as I wanted to love this album, I just couldn't do it. And the reason might surprise you guys. For one, I mean, the riffing style that takes up a majority of this record, that is present on a lot of modern metalcore, just overall more of like that kind of noodly, techie style of guitar riffing that places less of an emphasis on groove and more of an emphasis on just kind of technicality in a way. I'm normally not into that riffing style. I mean, bands like Era and Currents and Silent Planet that kind of use that the most. I'm not usually into that, but actually I didn't mind it on this album, which was really strange. I think on a few songs like Supernova, for one, they kind of amp up the techiness a little bit more. And the main riff in that song in particular, it has this really infectious bounce to it that I think really makes it work more. Oasis, too, is a song where the riffs feel a bit like almost frantic and chaotic. That to me makes them a bit more memorable. And there's also that crushing breakdown before that last chorus that I thought was really well done. On Cool Summer, the riffs take on more of like a dissonant feel that I enjoyed. And on Memories, which is maybe my favorite song on here, they have more of like that 2000s metalcore influence, like that melodic death metal nod in a way. So it might just be because, for one, the riffs were so amazingly produced, but also that they do kind of have some versatility in a way that allowed me to kind of enjoy them more. The thing that really irks me about this album stylistically is the saxophones. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I love when saxophone is played in literally any style of metal, as long as it's well thought out and it's done in ways that are creative and it's kind of used sparingly to sort of just kind of spice things up maybe in like the middle of an album. I mean, there's a reason why Rivers of Nile's Where Owls Know My Name was so acclaimed. Because they weaved those saxophone parts in at just the right times on that album to where it really added to it and it gave it that extra character like an unconventional instrument like a saxophone should do in a metal song. The problem I have on this album is that they beat the saxophones to fucking death on here. They're not bad, they're performed well, but just from that songwriting standpoint, they end up killing the momentum of the song, they end up getting really, really repetitive, and they end up getting extremely predictable and almost frustrating at times. Listening to this album, there were so many times where the band actually ends up building a good amount of momentum purely from the music themselves without the saxophones. And then it all drops out into the same saxophone part over and over and over and over again. It got so frustrating listening to every song on this album where that kept fucking happening. Like, I would argue Supernova is one of the best songs on the album. And at like the 3:28 mark, you actually get a full-on synth break, which I'll touch on in a minute. This album doesn't have much of, but it's so short, and it kicks right back into the same fucking saxophone parts again. And it's so frustrating. For one, because I don't want saxophones in metal to become something that ends up being like this big trend that every band does, and then it ends up dying. I think saxophone and metal can be used in such creative ways, and it can make certain songs stand out so much. When it's done on every song on an album, it doesn't have that same flair to it. It doesn't have that same element of intrigue. What made that Rivers of Nile album, and maybe like a lot of Periphery stuff that uses saxophone, what makes those songs so awesome is that they feel like left turns. They feel like something that surprises you. When every song on an album uses them the exact same way, it just completely takes away all of that element. And what's even more frustrating about all of these saxophone parts is that they feel like they totally dominate and just shove aside any of the synth and synthwave influence. Because for the most part, the synths on this album, they never really get a chance to fully shine and take the center stage. They end up kind of just being background noise for either the saxophone parts or the band as a whole, playing pretty much straight up modern metalcore. And there's maybe a few moments on here that lean more into like that gentle or progressive style of metalcore, but overall, like the synths, that hope I had for this album to combine modern metalcore with actual synthwave music, I didn't get that, like, at all. If you're a fan of modern metalcore, that kind of more prog-leaning modern metalcore, like the bands I mentioned earlier, then you'll probably enjoy this album. But I had such high hopes for it. I was excited at the fact that I found this band that was combining metalcore with synthwave, and I didn't get that. And yeah, like, I should clarify, there's really nothing on this album that is bad. Like, there's not a single song on here that was painful for me to listen to. At this album's worst, it just becomes a serious chore to listen to because of how repetitive it gets. Like, by the time you get to those last two tracks, Static Haze and Heatwave, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was extremely burnt out, especially given that these are two of the longest songs on the album. And when I could kind of tune out the saxophone parts that frustrate me so much, there's a lot of really cool ideas on this album, which makes it even more frustrating. Like I said, the track Memories is great. I mean, this is one of the songs where the saxophone actually kind of works. I like how it is kind of right off the bat in the intro. I wrote in my notes that I think this should have been the first song where they incorporated the saxophone, just it being track 4. Like I said earlier, I love the riffing on this song. The verses actually have this really cool atmosphere, and they really breathe just because of the synths in the background and that thick bass line kind of driving it. This song has maybe my favorite lyric on the album when he says, "You're turning my dreams into memories." I just thought that was a really beautiful lyric, and this song overall is just so packed with emotion. Daydream is another one that has this really almost nostalgic sounding synth intro that transitions into the main riff, and this song is just really soulful, and I enjoy that. It has this, again, really rich atmosphere and this kind of like lead guitar flourishes that end up popping in. White Noise is a track that, after you get past that kind of goofy like TV intro, this ends up being one of the most like emotive and atmospheric songs on the album, and I like that too. In particular, the lead guitar work on the song I thought was great, and the heavy parts, despite this being a more melodic song overall, the heavy parts I thought were really well woven in, which is a bit hard to do in a metalcore song that tries to just kind of go for more of that calmer, rich atmosphere. The saxophone parts were still unnecessary, but that was still another overall one of the more enjoyable tracks on here. Also, Afterglow I liked for similar reasons, just again kind of like that really saturated intro and all those different melodies kind of combining. I thought that was nice too. There's a lot to enjoy on this album. It's so frustrating how hard they had to push these fucking saxophones. It just feels so try-hard. And these songs, they're good enough to where they don't need the saxophone at all. Like, I think if they incorporated sax on 2, 3, maybe 4 tracks, that would have been just the perfect amount. There's also Stargazer, the intro track, which has these like clean and harsh vocal trade-off parts. This album is just so frustrating because there's so much potential that I hear in there, and there's so many genuinely cool moments. I just feel like if they dialed down the saxophone, then this easily would be an album that I could call good or maybe even great. For a band that wants to combine metalcore and synthwave, I think they should have essentially replaced the saxophones with some actual synthwave influence. That would have been cool, and I think they could have pulled off that kind of the more up and down dynamics that they went for a bit better in that sense. But I will still compliment the band for using a riffing style that I don't typically enjoy in a way that I, for the most part, ended up enjoying it. I, again, have to compliment the production tenfold, and the performances themselves were great as well. It's just, I just feel like they really fumbled from a songwriting standpoint here. All that being said, I'm going to score this album a 14 out of 30. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've heard this album, please comment below your thoughts on it. I would love to hear them. Remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content, and check out the description of the video for my Instagram, Spotify, and Threads links, as well as a link to my original music on Spotify. And yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.